whether or not they know that Meralco was acquired by the government during the last few years of the former President Marcos for non-payment of maturing loans.
Welcome back mga mamsers. Kung bago ka pa lang sa channel na ito, maligayang pagdating po mga mamsers. Inaanyayaan ko po kayo mag-subscribe at pindutin ang bell icon para updated ka sa mga ganitong videos.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the DBP representatives whether or not they know that Meralco was acquired by the government during the last few years of the former President Marcos for non-payment of maturing loans. If they know that.
We have no personal knowledge of such
Do you
transaction, Mr. Chair.
know that any information na government acquired Meralco?
I
do you-
have no information, Mr. Chair.
Who has the information, Mr. Chair?
Maybe we can ask the SEC about the status of Meralco, if we can research on the SEC records.
Mr. Chair, we will do that. We will check the previous records of Meralco.
Can you submit through email or to the committee secretariat the history of ownership of Meralco?
Yes, Your Honor. From the available records with the commission,
Yes.
we will do that.
From the 60s to present,
Because, Mr. Chair,
1970s.
Okay.
the information I got from the grapevine is that, and it seems to be very consistent, prior to the assumption of office of President Cory Aquino, Meralco was acquired by President Marcos' government because Meralco failed to pay its maturing obligations. The reason being that there was a devaluation in the 70s, and it is a loan from the World Bank through the DBP granted to Meralco, and that is the reason why the government acquired this company. And upon Mrs. Aquino's assumption to power, Meralco was turned over to the Lopez company on a silver platter. At that time, information points to the fact, Mr. Chair, that the Lopez company has only about 5% equity in that company. Mr. Chair, before the operation of the SPV, I'd like to ask the DBP representative if it is fair enough to assume that these NPAs have been transferred to the Asset Privatization Trust. We're talking of, let's say, when you entered with financial ventures, there might be obligations like what we had established earlier this morning on questioning of Congressman Garbin. Benpres assumed some obligations of Maynilad. So things like this, nature of transactions like this, we would like to know if Benpres absorbed other financial obligations of other companies you entered into. More specifically, whether or not these were entered prior to 1993. Are there cases like this, Mr. Tirona?
None, not that I know of, Mr. Chairman.
Yung sa financial obligations po natin, dahil sinabi kanina nung kasama ninyo that meron kayong mga financial ventures, and we would like to know to what extent that these obligations have been secured. Kasi po kailangan nating malaman kung paano natin babayaran yung mga obligations that you entered into not only with Benpress itself, but also with those entered into with its affiliated companies. Paano po yung mga security aspects nito? Last hearing, I remember, Mr. Chair, that I asked if Benpress can submit yun pong mga contractual obligations so that we will be able to know from there ano-ano po yung interest rates, ano po yung mga collaterals na in-establish doon, because we will not be able to know this until and unless you provide us the terms of your contracts with the committee. Were you able to provide this? I know, Mr. Chair, that this is one of those I requested during the last hearing.
Mr. Chair, to answer that directly, yes, we submitted the documents referred to or asked by the congressman. This was submitted last February 16 to the committee. It included the documents for the loans as well as which included the list of securities and lenders of the loans, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Considering, Mr. Chair, that I have not looked into all these documents, may I just ask Mr. Terona if the government ever guaranteed payment of some of these loans? Was there any government guarantee, Mr. Terona?
There was no government guarantee on any of these loans, Mr. Chairman.
Sino po yung mga partido na involved dun sa mga obligations? Para ma-establish po natin yung collateral and incidental contracts, including deeds of assignment kung meron po.
Kung sa apat po na kumpanya na involved po, if we talk first of Maynilad, the actual contract, borrower is Maynilad Corporation or Maynilad Water Services Corporation, Incorporation itself, and that carried a suretyship of Benpress. For Bayantel, it was Bayan Telecommunications Inc. that was the direct borrower, and this was secured by various mortgages. For Benpress, these were long-term commercial papers, Mr. Chair, so therefore it only had a negative pledge issued by Benpress to all the LTCP holders. For the Sky Cable, I'm sorry, but I cannot give you the details as I was, my colleague is not with us right now, Mr. Ventosa, but from what I know, the Sky Cable was originally a home cable debt, which was secured by a mortgage also.
Mr. Terona, your answers will be subjected to some evaluations anyway if this representation is able to look into the documents that you have submitted. You will agree with that, right?
Yes, sir.
Prior to the 1986 assumption into power of President Cory Aquino, were there any financial problems encountered by those obligations absorbed by Benpress? I'm assuming that even prior to 1993, when Benpress Holding is not yet incorporated, but it is a corporation, do you recall some financial extensions or absorptions given to any company affiliated with Benpress or Lopez company that had encountered some problems?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I cannot answer that because I was not connected with the Lopez Group at that time, and I have no knowledge of such.
Do you have somebody in your company today, Mr. Terona, who will be in a position to at least recall some of...
Attorney Quezon, do you have some input on this?
Mr. Chairman, I also cannot answer that question since I joined the Lopez Holdings only in 1990.
Mr. Aguilar? DS Marcoleta, can you repeat your question?
I was trying to elicit an answer, Mr. Chair, that even prior to upon the assumption of power of President Cory in 1986, if there are companies affiliated with the Lopez Group, either we call it Benpress Corporation, because Holdings Corporation was not yet incorporated at that time. Were there companies that have encountered problems already with the DBP?
We have no knowledge of any transactions that time. We're not actually with DBP yet.
So, Mr. Chair, am I getting an answer like DBP was not
I think
involved in the
DS
transaction?
Marcoleta, the only record they have here is the loan in 1989, the Central CATV yun, no? Ha? Hindi, yung unang-una loan. 95 pa yung unang loan daw na grant, buy and tell.
So,
Makibahagi, ano ang masasabi mo sa video na ito? Huwag niyo po sanang kalimutan mag-iwan ng like at komento.